and welcome back to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be talking about the things we've been watching. We're still in the UK, by the way.
Still in the UK.
So if you've been wondering where we are, we're in the UK.
Or why this sounds slightly different.
It sounds slightly different because we're recording it on the phone.
I don't know. We've had some feedback that said they think it sounds okay.
It sounds better, so maybe we can do this all the time then.
Yeah, I feel like we're a bit echoey because this room is a bit bigger than what we're used to.
What we're used to, yeah.
In,
it's a little bit of a Spartan room, so it echoes a little bit. But if it doesn't affect the sound, then that's good.
That's good.
Yes. But yeah, we've been watching a bit of telly while we've been over here because, you know, it's been a working holiday. You know, and we've been traveling around.
Quite frankly, when we made this list of things that we've been watching, I'm kind of like, how have we had time to watch all this
stuff? It really is because it seems like we've been non-stop since we got here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we've been on trips. And if you follow us on TikTok or Instagram, you'll have seen it all.
Yeah.
By now.
Well, ish.
Sure.
we haven't put out everything.
Yeah, because I'm still working on...
There's still much more to come.
Working on another YouTube video because there's one already up. So if you haven't seen that yet, go and look at it. It's how not to tour Windsor. Windsor Castle and Eton. So go and we're at Tea Buddy on there, on Tea and a Buddy.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So go and check that out.
Yeah.
So, and I'm working on an Edinburgh one now, and then there'll be a Cotswolds one as well, so...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so we thought we would break it up a little bit.
Break it up?
Instead of just like constantly telling you, and then we did this, and then we did that.
Yeah.
We thought we'd break it up a little bit with what we've been watching.
What have we been watching? And
most of the stuff is, I think, probably only available in the UK. A couple things I think came from Netflix, but
yeah.
But all you have to do is get a VPN. So like do Surfshark or NordVPN or something like that, and you'll be able to watch these things too. If anything sounds like it appeals to you.
Yeah, it's one of those things, VPN, that can quite literally save your entertainment life.
Yeah.
We used it a lot. Then we just started kind of like watching Netflix and stuff because we had it. And, you know, because stuff is kind of available all over the place. But, you know, since we've been here, we've had access to iPlayer and ITV Player. And we've been watching, and that's another one. I didn't have it on the list here. But on Channel 5, the My5 app, we've been watching... what was it called?
All Creatures Great and Small.
All Creatures Great and Small, yeah, but The Inheritance.
Oh, yeah. God, we watched so many things.
And it's like, you know, we've been breaking it up. You know, we've been staying with my uncle here.
I mean, we've been here for months, guys, so this is not like we've been here for 2 weeks and we've watched all of these.
We've been here for years now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got a few things. Recently we just finished The Reckoning.
The Reckoning, and that was...
Steve Coogan as Jimmy Savile.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's hard going, guys.
It's hard going, but he did a very good job, Steve Coogan.
He did a good job. I can't say that I recommend it.
I mean, if you're into true crime, British horror stories, that's it, you know. And if you're not familiar with who Jimmy Savile was, he was... a figure in entertainment over in Britain, you know, a big figure.
He started off as a DJ.
He started off as a DJ in the north of England, and then he became like presenter of Top of the Pops, and he was a massive figure in light entertainment in Britain for years. I remember him as a kid. His career was kind of ending when I was a kid, from the 60s on up until the 90s, and then.
It needs a big SA trigger warning, though, at the beginning.
Well, yeah, it kind of does, you know. They do that, you know. But yes, when he died in 2011, it all started coming out that he'd been sexually assaulting women all throughout his career.
Women and
young girls
and
boys.
It's really horrific.
And it's horrific because everybody was just like, oh, he did so much for charity, and oh, he was so wonderful, and you know, and then there was people going, no, the BBC must have known he was doing this and whatever, you know. And
I think that there was actually a documentary on
it was Netflix. Jimmy Savile, A British Horror Story.
Yeah, so you may already be familiar with it. And if you've seen that, you really don't need to see this show.
Unless you like Steve Coogan, who plays Alan Partridge, and he's been in the... you might know him from the Night at the Museum. He played one of the characters. Yeah,
I mean, personally, I think that this show was unnecessary because they did do that documentary.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, why? Why did we need to see a fictionalized version of this in addition to the documentary, which was very thorough and, you know, horrendous.
The Reckoning has, you know, acted out scenes, and it has like tiny interviews with
victims.
The victims, some of his victims too. So, yeah, if you want to, if that's up, you know, you go check it out. It'll probably be on Netflix at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I say give it a pass.
Give it a pass if you want to. The next one is another.
Oh my God!
Is another one, you know, because Britain. We've talked about this. Britain's likes a true crime, like dark story.
They love a dark story here. They love a depressing story in Britain. They really do.
Yeah.
And I'm not usually such a fan of depressing stories, but when in Rome.
The Long Shadow. It comes on ITV. It's about another real life. This one, criminal, Peter Sutcliffe, who was also known as the Yorkshire Ripper, who murdered a lot of women between 1969 and 1980. But, you know, they only focus on the 1975 to, you know, when the police investigation and everything. It's very good.
It's very well done.
It's very well. Toby Jones is a lead in it. David Morrissey is another one in it, as another lead in it, and
it's another one that I guess could probably use an SA trigger warning at the beginning, but you don't actually see, thankfully, too much of anything in this one.
Yeah.
I guess you didn't really in The Reckoning either.
No, it wasn't graphic at all. It was just kind of like, you know,
it just implied.
It just heavily implied that what was going on, you know.
The one thing to be said about The Long Shadow, I think, is that they focus more on the stories of the victims, rather than like focusing on what.
Yeah, it's not like
Peter Sutcliffe was
Ted
up to.
Was it the Ted Bundy Netflix thing? I can't remember who played Ted Bundy in that. I don't know, but they kind of, everybody was like, oh, they're glamorizing him and all.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
That's it.
Yeah, we didn't watch that one, so I can't really.
No, I'm sure Ted Bundy was Zac Efron, wasn't it? Or did he play Jeffrey Dahmer?
Oh, maybe, yeah. We did watch
they were all like,
oh no,
they're dramatizing, they're glamorizing it.
No, because they picked someone attractive, that's why. Yeah.
Well, they always do in these productions, except for, you know, like British productions, they're going to use people who look actually like the, you know, as close to the real life people as possible.
Well, the thing about Ted Bundy is everybody said, the victims that lived, you know, they said how attractive he was, and that's how he was sort of able to get away with it.
Some people thought Peter Sutcliffe was attractive.
Because people have this idea in their head that people who commit crimes like this are these like kind of troll looking people, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it could never be someone that's like attractive, someone that everybody finds charming and attractive. People like that don't commit crime, surely, you know. It's just like, but yeah, The Long Shadow. If you don't know, it's interesting because it is British history, a part of British history at this point, and because there is that sort of like Jack the Ripper.
Oh yeah, and they also focus on the hoax that went on that basically derailed the investigation.
Yeah,
a little bit as well. So it's interesting for people who are into true crime and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, give it a watch, and you know. But on to happier ones now. We were watching Ghosts. The last series of Ghosts came on.
That's just such a feel-good show.
Not the US one, the UK one. It's the final series. And they're going to do a Christmas special later this year. Well, around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And that'll be the final episode.
They have to, because the last
episode was very kind of just like,
just like any other episode.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a final episode. I was like, surely that wasn't the last one. No, it was.
It was. It was the final one. But until the Christmas special. But...
I'm so sad that show's ending. Dominic's like, oh, it's it can't go on forever. It'll start getting like ridiculous or whatever.
I mean, they do have scope to kind of like do other things with it.
Yeah.
But no, it's like they've kind of resisted what they're doing in the US version of like, where she goes to another thing and she sees another ghost,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's ghosts in this building too,
that's her thing, is she can see ghosts, so wherever she goes.
But it gets a bit like Ghost Town then, doesn't it, with that Ricky Gervais show? That film.
I don't know, I've never seen it.
Yeah, where he kind of like he died for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I have seen
and then
it,
he starts seeing ghosts on everywhere he goes,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they probably wanted to avoid. They just wanted the action to remain at Button House, and that's it.
I don't know. It's a
good
really
show.
good show.
It's
I wish
fun,
it was.
yeah.
I wish it wasn't going away. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there's more. There's going to be more from that. They're looking at collaborating on other things too. The whole team. The Horrible Histories crew.
Yeah.
The next one we've got is Beckham.
Oh, yeah.
Documentary. I was watching the documentary of Beckham. David Beckham,
Suddenly we're football fans, you guys.
I kind of wanted to watch it because it's kind of like, that was what was going on when I was growing up. He was like in his prime. That's when his career kind of started.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
The posh girls and all of that is from our time, isn't it?
Posh Spice. Spice Girls.
Spice Girls. I said
with the posh girls.
Posh girls.
That's the group you book. That when you can't get the Spice Girls. You get the posh girls.
Yes. God, the Spice Girls.
The Spice Girls, yes. And I mean, that kind of thing. And he talks about his career, and they got all the old footage. And I'm like, oh, bloody hell, Gary Neville and Nicky Butt. And, that Man United dream team of the 90s that won the treble. I mean, football fans, it's like, that was the joke I saw on like Twitter and stuff like that. People like, oh, yeah, who were kids back then. And like, oh, my bloody hell, It's, I remember that. And yeah, because I remember, it was surprising how much I remember of his career.
Yeah.
And stuff,
I think, though, that you don't really have to be a soccer fan to watch it.
No,
you don't have to be a David Beckham fan.
It's just kind of like about his career and it's all singing his praises. But, there were stuff where it wasn't singing his praises.
Well,
he was acknowledging he screwed up here and he screwed up there,
It's the story of somebody who worked very hard their whole life to achieve what they eventually achieved, and they were rewarded, luckily for them, they were rewarded for all of their lifelong hard I'm surprised, with a lot of success.
I mean, because Victoria was in it.
Yeah.
And she's talking about it, and she came across quite funny, actually.
Yeah.
She came out and, it was very kind of like,
well
done,
There were a couple of points where I guess they were, I don't know if you want to say playing it up for the camera a little bit.
Well, yes.
And I guess when she was talking, he was sort of like just in the wings, listening. And the same thing when he was talking.
The classic one is when she goes, you see, we both grew up very working class, she says.
Yeah, we were from working class families.
And David goes, now we're doing this. He comes in and he goes, now we're doing this.
Tell
and
the
truth, Victoria. Tell the truth. She's like, I'm telling the truth. What are you talking about? Oh, we're both very working class. She goes, what car did your dad drive you to school in?
Yeah.
What car, Victoria? What car did you drive in the 80s?
It's kind of cutting back to her, and she's just like, oh. She's got this look on her face like, ugh.
Yeah, and then she goes, a Rolls Royce you know.
And he was just like, thank you.
Thank you.
And he kind of
left,
closed
and
the
then
door.
and she's just kind of looking like red-faced, you know, because it's like, I'm trying to be relatable here.
Yes,
David.
yes. Yes, that's definitely what it was. And then he's talking at one point about how he likes everything just so, and he does a lot of the cooking, and at night when all the family's gone to bed, he'll come down and he cleans everything, and he's just it's
No,
very
I
therapeutic
believe that
for
about
him.
him because he's he seems kind of like everything's got to be just so.
And she's kind of sitting off in the dining room. We don't see her because they're just talking to him, you know. But then she just kind of goes, "Oh yes, he's so perfect. He's so perfect," like that. And they just put the camera on her. Then
it was quite a funny documentary, you know.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think they were probably being as honest
as you should be, really. You know, you don't have to bear all and stuff like that, because there's a lot of people go, why do people put this stuff out there? Why do people, you know? And, you know, there was stuff like, that stuff that got into the tabloids about their personal life and stuff like that. And he's just like, yeah, that was our personal life, and we worked through it, and here we are now.
Yeah. Because they were hounded a lot by the press and in a sort of Charles and Diana type of way.
Oh, it was mad.
But I think a lot of British celebrities are, actually.
A lot of British celebrities are, but them two together, him being, you know, the top footballer of his... And when you watch, if you watch Ted Lasso, you know, people go, oh, Jamie Tart and all that, you know, he's based on like this character. It's David Beckham in the 90s. That whole Richmond team is pretty much Manchester United in the 90s. You know, because they had Roy Kent and everybody was like, that's Roy Keane.
Yeah.
That is Roy Keane. You know, they've basically just changed a couple of letters in the name, you know.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and you know, changed his nationality because Roy Keane is Northern Irish, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Or is he Northern Irish, or is he... I think he's just Irish, actually, yeah. He's just, he's from Ireland. But yeah, no, and they interviewed him and everyone who was on his team, even Eric Cantona, which is who got me into football.
Yeah.
I always loved, you know, that was when I started watching football and being interested in it, you know.
Yeah. I think if you are a fan of any kind of sport in general, or actually even maybe just pop culture from the like 90s and early 2000s, you'll find it interesting. You don't have to be like a soccer fan
No, you don't.
Or a David Beckham fan or anything, I don't think. I think you will find it interesting. Yeah. So anyway, that one's on Netflix.
That one's on Netflix. So that should be on the US Netflix too, actually.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Because we're on the UK one here.
Yeah.
We're going back to the iPlayer now. The Woman in the Wall.
Okay,
That was something we watched with...
did we say what other networks the other ones were on?
Well, Ghosts is on the BBC. The Long Shadow was ITV. The Reckoning was the BBC.
Okay.
So we've just been bouncing back between...
The Woman in the Wall was BBC also. That was another true crime kind of story.
Yeah.
Well,
it was based on the Magdalen laundries of Ireland.
Yeah.
You know, like survivors of that, you know, and if you're not familiar with that, then you can have a Google about it and look it up and all that. It was like, you know, something that went on in Ireland for years. And then
in the Catholic Church.
In the Catholic Church of Ireland, yeah. So, yeah, you know, and it's about this woman's...
It's a fictionalized story.
It's a fictionalized...
As far as I know.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a fictionalized story of this town that, you know, they were fighting to get a convent declared as a laundry.
Yeah.
Which the state would recognize, and then they get money and
they would be legally compensated.
And, you know, everything, you know, so because there was a lot of people who were like, oh no, they're lying, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. I don't know what they're talking about, you know.
Yeah. And the main character, she's kind of, the town thinks of her as this kind of crazy lady.
She's like, she's a bit, oh, yeah.
And they all treat her very,
you know?
they all treat her like very...
Oh, yeah, we do.
What's the saying? Treat her with...
kid gloves.
Kid gloves, that's it, yeah. Because, she's fragile, you know. And so it's sort of... It revolves around her and her story, and... she just uncovers things as it goes along, and
eventually ends.
Realizes she's maybe not as crazy as everybody thinks she is. Even her, I think, even she thought she was crazy. It's very good. It's a dramatic story. It's very dramatic, but it's very well told and very interesting. So we would definitely recommend that one as well. And again, on to
the BBC.
Lighter things.
Two Doors Down. Well, if you can call that lighter. Two Doors Down.
I think it's
we
much
caught up
lighter.
with that. I think, it was last year. I think the last series came out. I don't know if there was another one this year.
Yeah.
I think they might be looking at ending it soon. But it's a sitcom about neighbours on this street in suburban Glasgow.
Yeah. It's just very silly and lighthearted. Sort of old-fashioned kind of sitcom.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
It's an old-fashioned type sitcom because they've all got the same kind of cast of characters.
And it's just in the same setting pretty much every episode.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's nothing serious. It's just...
It's quite funny because, it's kind of like, if you've grown up with those types of neighbours or that type of family.
Yeah.
It's very familiar to you, Mm-hmm. So, we recommend that if you're into that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. And I think just after having been to Scotland now, to a small town, I mean, I think they're supposed to be in, like, a city, but...
Well, they're in a suburban Glasgow, so they're in something like, Cumbernauld.
But they're a tight-knit community, let's say, because they're all neighbors, and they all visit each other frequently and are in each other's business and stuff. I think having just recently been to a small...
And you've been to Glasgow?
A small town in Scotland, where word traveled around very quickly that we had been there, and
I got messages saying, "Were you up here? Can you confirm whether you were here, Dominic?"
And really, I mean, it's relatable whether you've been to Scotland or not. If you have nosy neighbors or have ever been to a small town at all.
Well, it was a very small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just relatable, yeah.
Yeah. And
it's very silly and funny.
Yeah, it is, yeah. We've also caught up with Doc Martin now, the final series of Doc Martin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was nice. That was the end of that.
That, again, was last year, wasn't it?
Last year, yeah. So series 9.
Yeah, I mean...
And they did a Christmas special to top it all off, and it was like, farewell, Doc Martin.
I mean, I love the character of Doc Martin. Martin Clunes, he's great in it.
Yeah.
I really think the show could have ended like 3 years ago. Like 3-4 years ago, like they could have been finished.
It's been going for literally almost 20 years.
Yeah. Well, there's been a couple years in between seasons here and there, yeah. It's a good show. Again, it's kind of, it can be a little bit same thing every episode, but it's fun. It's not serious. It's just, Yeah. Yeah. I would think that most of you have probably seen Doc Martin at this point because it comes on PBS.
Yeah, it
did. I don't know if it still does.
I mean, I'm sure it will still get repeated,
Yeah. And, yeah.
Yeah.
The last episode of that, by the way, was a Christmas special. And it kind of, to me, left it open like, oh, are they actually finished or could they come back? But if you guys are a fan at all of like Hallmark Christmas stuff, you'll love that freaking Christmas special. It's so like super Christmassy.
Yeah, they decided to go out with that one and just do it.
It's not like typical of British Christmas episodes at all.
Really, no.
It was like super, super Christmassy. I really liked it because I'm a big Christmas head, but
you're a Christmas head. To say how much of a Christmas head she is, just eaten some mince pies, haven't we?
Yes, it's only October. We're already eating mince pies.
Well, they're out in the stores, you see, and we couldn't resist.
Yeah, well,
and the short crust mince pie from the bakery was absolutely delicious.
You guys, we haven't been able to find mince pies. Well, I think maybe we found them last year.
Yeah, maybe.
But the year before that, no, we could not find them at all. So we didn't get one for the whole year.
No.
So yeah, we're taking advantage this time, and we bought some from the bakery, and my God, they were so fresh and delicious. But I digress.
To we watched a film that we hadn't seen. It was an old. I call it old. It's 12 years old, 13 years old. Oh no, 2014. So 9 years old. What we did on our holiday.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, David Tennant and Billy Connolly were in it. So,
that was on Netflix, wasn't it? Yeah. Again, that was probably, I'm gonna say British Netflix, but just give it a Google and see if you can find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or actually, if you get the VPN, you should be able to watch British Netflix.
I think that's it.
Then.
I don't know.
I don't know, depending on how they've changed Netflix rules and all of that. But
that was a funny story. It was a bit of a black comedy.
It was very much what Britain is really good at, though. With the dark comedies.
It's just kind of like finding the absolute humor in
death.
Basically,
to be honest. Yeah.
So you'll enjoy it if you like that kind of thing.
Yes. If you've ever seen Death at a Funeral, or what are some of those others ones? Sometimes, Britain is just so good at taking things that you're just like, oh my God.
Oh, this is horrific.
This is such a serious moment, but it's hysterical at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is life, isn't it? Sometimes.
That's life, I suppose. As Slughorn would say. That's my favourite quote from the Harry Potter series of all. Forget your bloody Dumbledore stuff. It's freaking Slughorn's. That's life, I suppose.
Yes. But yeah, it's really, really good. If you haven't seen it, definitely look for that, because if you like dark comedy, I mean, that is dark comedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And well, this is something you've been watching. This is our final one. Married at First Sight UK.
Yes, I just
obsessed with it.
I've seen so many people. I mean, because this has been going for years already at this point, I think. At least a few.
In the US?
I think there is a US one too.
Yeah.
But I've seen people talking about it on TikTok, because
TikTok.
Dominic thinks everything I refer to comes from TikTok.
Well, it does.
I learned so much on TikTok, okay?
Well, you're not learning anything more. I'm stopping that. I'm banning TikTok. Who's banned TikTok?
I don't know.
The US government wanted to ban it, didn't they?
In government buildings.
Oh, in government buildings, that's it.
Yeah.
I keep saying China's banned TikTok, but it's from China.
Yeah.
China's banning their own stuff now, you see. It's so good, we gotta ban it.
I think most people are obsessed with Married at First Sight Australia.
Oh, maybe is that a bit wild, is it?
I think maybe it started in Australia. I
don't
really know.
I don't know.
I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen it.
Most of these reality shows that come on in the US and all that, reality TV has its roots in the UK.
It definitely did not start in the US, no, Married at First Sight. But I think it might have started in Australia, because either that or the Australian version is just really wild. Yeah. Because that's...
Well, it's like Love Island. Most people in the US watch the UK version.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, everybody on TikTok says babes and stunning.
Stunning.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've started watching that.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. Yeah. It's kind of addictive. I've missed a few episodes. I have to go back. But let me know if you watch it, if you watch the Australian one or the US one or the UK one, and let me know which season of any of them is the best season, because that might be something I might be interested in watching when we've run out of other things to watch.
Yes. But I think that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Stunning.
That's all we've managed in all the traveling and everything else that we've been doing. But
yeah, which, more of that. More on that later.
Yeah, I think we're going to probably also do I don't know, an episode maybe about some of the stuff that we've eaten. We've had so many questions about
what have you been eating?
And we're not taking enough pictures and videos apparently of the stuff we're eating. But when you're here for so long, we're just eating stuff that we normally eat. I mean, we're just making meals.
We've had an enormous amount of chocolate biscuits.
Of just biscuits in general.
And biscuits in general.
And chocolate.
And tea and chocolate. And custard slices, and
I think we would have lost some weight at this point because of all the walking that we've been doing if we weren't also shoving our face full of
we walked up a
chocolate
big massive hill in Torquay, so
oh my God, I almost died. But that'll be a different episode.
That'll be a different episode to talk about that.
But so I think we can do an episode probably if you're interested on
the stuff that we've eaten,
some of the places we've eaten, some of the things we've eaten. Maybe also an episode on just things that we've forgotten about the UK or observations about the UK, stuff like that. Observations about new things and just whatever, So let us know if you'd be interested in either of those topics. Otherwise, it's just going to be, for the next however many weeks, just what we did on our holidays.
What we did on our holidays. Yes, exactly.
Everybody's asking, oh, what have you been doing? How have you been spending your days? And what's this like? And what's that like? And, so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Unless you tell us otherwise. Unless you tell us, please, God, we don't want to know. We don't
Stop talking about this.
We don't care. We don't care.
Stop talking. Get out of my life.
You're making us annoyed. Anyway. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Be sure to give us a follow on social media if you do not already, especially TikTok and Instagram if you are interested in seeing our travels. And we'll talk to you next time. Oh, we're at TButty, TEABUTTY, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of the places.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.